Hello, my name is Anani Francine13. The name of my channel is The Oil of Amana. So I created this channel to explore topics around health and spirituality. This is my 5th vlog. Welcome. If you are returning here, you probably already know I am about to make the same disclaimers that I made at the top of videos 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those disclaimers are the following. Number 1, I'm not tech savvy. So please don't expect anything fancy. This lighting and this sound is what it is for now. And number 2, I will be reading from some notes that I wrote just from time to time to stay on track. So with that being said, I will jump right into the topic. And that topic is plant-based pseudo Yoni healers. Sabotage women's reproductive health. I know that's a mouthful. So before I just jump right in, I feel it's appropriate to explain a couple things. Pseudo obviously means false, fake. But for those who don't know, Yoni is a Sanskrit word that means womb or vagina. And along with that comes a spiritual understanding that the womb is a sacred space. The word Yoni is, of course, given to us by Hindu traditions. Look it up for a better description. But that's what it is in a nutshell. It's a beautiful concept, Yoni. Beautiful word. Pseudo Yoni healers. What do I mean by that? I mean this very strange phenomenon in the online wellness space where plant-based women of a certain cultural orientation normally sell things like Yoni detoxes in the way of herbs, Yoni herbal detoxes, Yoni steam blends for Yoni steaming, herbal teas that are going to eliminate fibroids, cysts, PCOS, alleviate all manner of female hormonal conditions. You'll also see a lot of ebooks, recipe guides for eliminating fibroids, plant-based recipe guides, and breath work techniques. Before I just jump into the meat of this topic, it's important that I make There's some caveats. I'm a passionate medicine woman. My great-grandmother was a midwife and herbalist. And so I know that Yoni steaming is most certainly a healthy and traditional healing modality. It is. And I know that herbal healing is real, and it is powerful, it is profound. And I also want to say that there are most certainly people online who are selling well-crafted herbal blends to address women's reproductive health. They are typically going to be marketed or advertised way differently than the way that pseudo Yoni healers market their products. The difference is going to be, and this is just speaking to discernment, someone who is operating in integrity, has really dedicated themselves to sacred herbal traditions, is going to describe the organ systems of the body that their plant medicines are enacting upon. They're going to be very detailed. They're going to be very specific about the kind of woman that their herbs are beneficial for. They're very specific. They are not plant-based. Can tell you that. They're not going to be advocating that you eliminate, all meat and dairy long term, and they're not going to be recommending that you constantly be detoxing, and there are protocols. Beyond that, there are people with integrity. These are the ones who are really, really, really doing the work, who are going to have a consultation with you. They're going to speak with you in detail about your specific hormonal profile off top. Your average pseudo Yoni healer is not going to do that. They're just going to put up an herbal blend, a one-size-fits-all blend, a one-size-fits-all Yoni steam herbal situation, and So, with that being said, I'll jump right in. There are a couple ways that this particular ilk, the plant-based pseudo Yoni healers, sabotage women's reproductive health. They oversimplify, the first one, they oversimplify hormones and hormonal issues like estrogen dominance. So this is one of the primary ways that I know for a fact that these alleged healers don't respect the totality of nature, because they don't understand that plants are just as alive as animals. So they will tell you that meat and dairy encourages estrogen dominance, and they start, fear-mongering by saying that, meat is pumped full of hormones. And that even if the meat is not pumped full of hormones, you're still going to absorb hormones from the animal just based on the hormones circulating in the animal's tissues. And the whole premise really ignores the fact that plants also have hormones. Plants also have hormones because they are living. And so the plant foods that they suggest that women replace meat with are estrogenic and often act as endocrine disruptors. And I don't just mean the soy, I also mean the chickpeas and the lentils and the red beans and the green peas and the flax seeds. These are estrogenic. They're estrogenic, and they can do significant damage very quickly and very extensively when relied on as a primary fuel for the body. Of course, there are the pseudo plant-based Yoni healers who recommend that you be raw and eat salad. That doesn't work either. You're going to be very deficient for some of the reasons that I'm about to mention in a moment. But let's talk for a moment about the herbs that they sell. The one-size-fits-all tea blends or tinctures or, there are many herbs that I commonly see that are not for every woman's hormonal profile. Red clover is not for every woman. Fenugreek is not for every woman. And really, when you are approaching, we'll just call it the herbal marketplace for lack of a better term, as a woman, if you are turning to herbs to assist you, you need to have a full understanding of what your hormonal profile is and how the blend you're buying, the herbs you're looking at, are going to support whatever organ system is afflicting you, whatever is wrong. You need to know that. Because again, there are people who create formulas that address organ systems of the body appropriately. And if you know what you're looking for, good, fine. But the deeper And the more comprehensive paradigm is to speak to an herbalist in detail so that something can be customized for you. And that connects very well to what another way that they sabotage and why this matters. Everyone's estrogen dominance is not the same. If estrogen dominance is the issue, everyone's estrogen dominance is not the same. And pseudo Yoni healers encourage women to ignore the body's vital forces. Before I dive into that, it is important for me to beat the drum I always beat about saturated fat and its importance, bioavailable protein from animal foods and its importance. Because saturated fat, I've said this before, and it's a broken record. If you don't like it, you might have to click off. Saturated fat builds your sex hormones. Saturated fat is what manufactures the body's sex hormones. And so since herbs assist with influencing the body really to remember what it does naturally, they really are not your first healing system. Your first healing system is going to be the very thing that manufactures your hormones. It's going to be the saturated fat in the animal foods. And if you need to look to the herbal world, again, it needs to be specific because everyone's estrogen dominance is not the same. These pseudo Yoni healers do not understand the body's metabolic pathways, the liver being the primary metabolic pathway for estrogen. It's where most of your estrogen is metabolized. Excess estrogen is metabolized in the liver. And so yes, if that is the source of your estrogen dominance, then the answer is not to eliminate saturated fat, because you need bile acid. You need to be secreting that. And when people are on plant-based diets long term, bile acid is naturally lowered. So you can actually create estrogen dominance being plant-based long term, because your body is not secreting as much of that because you're not eating fat. So you can actually create a problem, or you can exacerbate a problem because now you're replacing the bioavailable protein and fat from meat and butter and eggs and tallow or whatever with chickpeas and lentils and green peas and red beans and soy and flax seeds and whatever and hemp seeds. And now you don't have enough bile acid to break down, to metabolize estrogen. So the liver, just in general, before you eliminate meat and dairy as they recommend, is the metabolic pathway you want to look to, one of them. That could be a driving factor in estrogen dominance. Okay, let's just say that you're estrogen dominant because maybe you don't make enough progesterone. Progesterone, once again, which is, a female fertility hormone, sex hormone that is critical. That is produced by protein, fat, and cholesterol. So eliminating meat and dairy, it's not going to help you with that. Eliminating saturated fat, the very thing that you need to manufacture progesterone, is not going to help you with that. And sometimes women are deceived because they will go plant-based, or they'll read a testimonial from someone who went plant-based and they received some kind of relief in their hormonal imbalances, some kind of relief with a cyst, with a fibroid, with PCOS, whatever. because they don't understand that fat-soluble vitamins are stored. I said this a lot on my last video. You store those vitamins and you utilize them very slowly. You store vitamins A, E, D, and K that you're eating in butter, that you're eating in red meat. You store that in your liver, you store that in your body's fat tissues and muscle tissues, and you utilize them very slowly. So oftentimes, women do not understand that when they go plant-based for a very long time, your body is going to utilize what it stored when you were eating meat. And those storages, you know, that varies from woman to woman. You know, it depends on how well you stored it, how much you stored it. Everyone is using it at a different rate, but it's used slowly. So women will see a change. And then later on, once those storages are depleted, then their hormonal issues get way worse. Because now, what I mean again, by these pseudo Yoni healers divorcing you from the vital forces of your body, is that now those vital forces have to remember what to do again. Because you haven't been eating the primary fuel that makes your sex hormones. And you may have been taking these random herbal teas. These herbs that can be estrogenic or interfere with the body's progesterone. Okay, let's just say you produce enough progesterone, but your lymphatic system is not dispersing or distributing that progesterone as it should. What if that's your issue with being estrogen dominant? That's different than the woman with the liver. And it's slightly different than, you know, the woman with the other progesterone issue. Do we need to look at your pituitary function? You know, your luteinizing hormone. Is your thyroid communicating as it should? Because the cruciferous vegetables and the salad that they recommend can greatly impact and inhibit your thyroid. And then the flax seeds that they recommend that you replace the wild fish with is estrogenic. And then the juice detox and the fasting that they recommend you do is going to place the body in a stress state and drive insulin resistance. I see it all from the pseudo Yoni healers. My point is that in cases where female fertility, hormonal issues arise, the answer is not the elimination of meat and saturated fat. That's not the answer. A more appropriate response would be, again, to look at the body's metabolic pathways, to look at the entire, you know, hormonal cascade. But if you're not eating the very things that produce your sex hormones, it leads to dysregulation, further dysregulation in the long term. So I want everyone to scrutinize and interrogate this information, which, you know, I got to give it to them. They got some banging marketing. It is some beautiful images, and you know how the berries and the tea is photographed and the lighting and everything. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And that's what makes it even more dangerous, is that it is seductive. So again, we're coming from a paradigm in which, as we are looking for relief from standard American diets, standard Western diets, lifestyles, we're hit with plant-based messaging no matter who we are. Okay, that is going to be, that's the answer. Just eat more fruits and veggies. We're not encouraged to really scrutinize years of Pop-Tarts and Doritos and processed sugars and, all of these things. The psychic residue influences everyone to blame meat, to blame saturated fat. And when that collides with pseudo Yoni healers as it relates to women, then we're just driven in another very denatured paradigm that's not rooted in how the body operates. Said this on a live I did recently, and I'll say it again. When we're looking at the practice of herbalism and the application of it, the finest herbal traditions come from cultures of people who revered meat, who were eating meat-based, who prized saturated fat, organ meats, etc. With that being said, I just want to encourage everyone to just please be discerning. Do your research. I'm going to end here. I hope your vision is clear and I hope your health is blessed.